And aloha, GM Seth here. I also go by Seth R. Mitchell. And on this channel, we have live streams for our Pathfinder 2e actual plays, and soon coming a podcast based in this vast world that I've created, Mystimon Saga. But you might notice our YouTube channel, we only have seasons 8 through 10, through now 11 available. And we'll be starting our podcast. I don't know. I don't know where we're going to be starting that. So, knowing that some might be intimidated to start watching our live streams or start listening through the to the podcast without knowing anything of what happened beforehand, because this campaign is based on a long running campaign, very long running campaign that started back in 2014, and now we're starting season 12 soon. That gives you an idea of just how long this has been going on. So in this video, we're going to be going over the main plot points and such. We're going to be recapping the previous seasons, seasons 7 through to 10, and that will serve as a primer and get you up to speed. And without further ado, I'm actually joined by a few friends today. I'm actually joined today by Binary and L, and very special guest. I finally managed to drag this guy out of retirement. Bifrost. Everyone, give it up for Bifrost.
We found him hiding in the Amazon.
Well, just some echoey memory core of Bifrost, most likely.
He specifically told us not to take him back to Seth because he'd force him back into this, but here we are!
Thank you. I'm glad at least somebody heard me when I was protesting the entire way back.
Oh, I heard you. I just didn't listen.
So these three are here with me today because we're actually going to make this not just a monologue of me talking. That'll probably get very boring very quickly. This is going to be more of a discussion.
Did no
Mostly
one tell
a monologue
Seth?
of me talking, I think.
Did no one tell Seth we were all here just to listen to a monologue?
Yeah, that's what I was told. I was told it was going to be a monologue of me talking and everyone would listen to me.
That's the only reason we were able to carry you back despite your protests from the Amazon.
I feel kind of let down now.
Anyways, so what is Mystimon Saga? Some might be asking. First off, just what is Mystimon Saga? Well, let's tackle that question first. Mystimon Saga is a high fantasy world in which people of all kinds and various races live alongside mystical creatures with magical powers called Mystimon. And people can imprint these Mystimon and call them to their aid and call upon the raw magical energy that flows throughout all things called Mystia. It's an epic tale that spans many ages and focuses on the drama of characters' lives, their exploration of the world around them, and the political intrigue that entails. If you want to learn more about this huge world I've created, you can check us out at world.mystimonsaga.com. So, without further ado, I'm going to start with giving a brief summary of events that happened in Season 7 prior to Bifrost joining us. Binary and L joined us late in Season 10, but I'm sure they'll have input on things that came in that preceded them.
Do jokes count as input?
Yes.
Cool, then I'll have input, probably.
And I'll also have a kitten doing strange things. They're strange things to me. I'm sure they make sense to her. So first of all, season 7 didn't exactly happen how I expected it would. For obvious reasons, because season 7 took place in 2020. I'm not going to go into anything further from there. But season 7 started out with the party being part of this circus called Goodbeard's Grand Show. And the once proud and beloved circus ringmaster Thorn Goodbeard was murdered just before the show was due to start. And he was murdered in his own tent, too. There was trace amounts of magic detected on his body and everything. And there were bites from creatures that were later identified as being from Dalamanders. Dalamanders are these viper Mystimon from the deep. The deep is this vast subterranean cave system. And there was also a cut wound on his chest, which was made after his death. And the party thought that the Dalamanders were either being controlled in some way or brought to Rockshar, where all of this took place. Rockshar is this small town in southern Almana. Despite the murder and other setbacks, the party decided, you know what, the show needs to go on anyway, so let's do what we can. But they managed to please the crowd. For example, one of the party members got stage fright, and there was a rope that was sabotaged. And there was also they also found that Nigans chewed through the ropes. Nigans are these weasel creatures. But there was also one of the performers, Jogunda, wasn't eating anything and just wanted to rest. And one of the so there was a lot that happened there. But in the midst of investigating the murder itself, they discovered that the leader of the Wayfinder Society, Crystal Dawn, was here at the circus, and she had brought along Kwoi. Kwoi, Tree Watcher, is this adorable flower girl druid who loves to hand out flowers to everyone she meets. She is arguably adorable. I say arguably because there are other people who have other opinions on her. I digress. But Kwoi ended up going missing. Crystal couldn't find Kwoi anywhere, and they found her under a wagon, and they managed to convince her to come out by saying that they were there to help, and they decided that it was quite possible that Kwoi had actually witnessed Goodbeard's murder, and it turned out that she actually had. And she was terrified because the person she saw was very familiar to her. And then in the next session after that, Kane Harbinger, an investigator, a detective, showed up, and Kane said that that Goodbeard's horrible murder matched the MO of 3 other ritualistic murders that he had investigated in Kalrun. So there's a reason for this. And through a lot of investigation, it turned out that the man that Kwoi had seen was a man who was dressed in this circus ringleader's uniform with a top hat, holding a cane, with a scar over his eye. And it was a man that Kwoi recognized very much. She called him the Bad Man, but he, of course, goes by a different name now. But they didn't know what his name was for a good long time. And the party ended up chasing the man in the top hat, as they were calling him, and they ended up chasing him to this pyramid temple that sat further into this part of the Almanan continent called Zalamba. Zalamba is itself a entire country, and from there they eventually were started meeting with the tribal leaders of the Sabertooth that live in Zalamba, and that's where we get into where Bifrost came in. Bifrost, you came in around August of 2020, so kind of late into season 7. And when you had come in, there was this Sabertooth man who was carrying this idol that will become very important very shortly. And this idol, apparently, we're not sure if it actually did cause this, but this idol supposedly, allegedly, caused a bunch of Skulms and Risen, a bunch of undead, to show up. And that's when you came in, Bifrost. You fought through this horde of undead, and for your help, you were granted the lease for this house on this ranch that was on this ranch called Fox Hollow Ranch. You were granted basically this whole ranch, but there was a problem. Of course, there's always a catch when you're given something for free, right?
Well, I don't think it was totally free, right? I mean, we did have to fight a little bit, although I think I came in just after the deeding of the ranch. So yes.
So you were granted the deed for this ranch, for Fox Hollow Ranch, but you had to first handle an issue because everyone around Zalamba said that house is haunted. And when you stepped into that house, you awakened the dark forces within. So take it away, Bifrost. What do you remember from your very first session with us?
So I remember being brought to the place, being told that the place was cursed, that there were spirits. So basically, we were being asked to clear out the previous tenants of the house who didn't want to leave, who had been squatting well past death. And we had to sort of come in and clean the place out. And it was kind of fortunate that my character, Bifrost, was brought in as a cleric. I was very eager to explore and discover and to hopefully clear
god were
things
you a
out.
cleric of?
I was an automaton cleric of the god Niven, which is really a throwback to very early in the series, because the automatons, especially the branch that I came from, were recreated by Niven before Niven ascended to godhead. So I was sort of worshiping the person who literally made me, by the maker, as it were.
Quite fitting.
Yeah. And very eager to do this. I had my own reasons for not only worshiping Niven, but for wanting to sort of explore this whole barrier between life and death as a character anyway, because I wasn't 100% certain that I was alive. And that made it much more difficult to think about whether or not death was a barrier that I could bridge. And those people with a little bit of knowledge of mythology here in the regular world might get the origin of my character's name then. But we came in to explore the ranch, and we got into the ranch without a lot of trouble. And the ranch was gorgeous. I hope you're still using the ranch. It is absolutely a wonderful place for a large group of people to congregate in and work.
They're still there. They're still there.
We observed a number of oddities about the way things grew about the location, but nothing that we could really piece together quite right away. And then when we got inside, we discovered, as was the pattern we would see many a time again in the next few seasons, that the place was definitely haunted. Spirits all over the place. It got quite bad on the second floor. And we had to do a lot of work to clear the place out. Rituals. Oh my gosh, so many rituals. Setting up things to respecting the locals' traditions. We set up a lot of wards and other things to keep the spirits at bay. And by the time we eventually did clear the entire ranch house, we eventually had to expand that outside of the ranch house too. Although I'm skipping perhaps the most important point, which is that this appeared to be part of a really important spiritual cycle that was going on. And we were fighting against a tide that would resurge again even after we cleared the ranch out. So it was something that would rise and become a much more serious issue later on, or at least that's what was implied.
Yeah, you ended up putting up wards and tell me, Elle, has Soma been keeping up those wards? So, you there, Elle?
I was muted on my computer. I was saying, yes, Soma and Ada have been working together to renew those wards, I believe.
Right.
Which is important, and I'm glad that's being maintained. Not that kept all of the spirits out, but it kept the most malevolent ones out. There should... The book throwing ones, the ones that tried to herd us into the main map room and destroy us, those ones were eventually banished. But there should be at least one friendly spirit still in the house, unless something sad or terrible happened.
That spirit's still there. That spirit's still there, but there is also a book throwing spirit still there, but that actually is Crystal's own Mystimon.
Excellent. Good to know.
Spooklar has a habit of throwing books and doing all sorts of things just out of humor.
Well, then it may be that in the future, some of the things that were written and then stashed around the library may be found. So that's a good opportunity at some point.
Yeah. So going on from there, you got this case that sent you to Olympus, actually, because this man's little sister disappeared when she went to the Primal Wood, which is this wooded region just south of Evergreen City, the capital of Olympus. As part of a wood elf camping trip, every summer Woodland or Wood Elf Gelvarn would invite younger Gelvarn into the woods for a sort of summer camp where they would learn to commune with the wood and nature as their ancestors did before the age of cities. It's kind of part of this program they have where City Elf and Wood Elf Gelvarn kind of try to work together. Despite having major differences, they try.
It came off a very like scoutish of a program. I believe this is also the origin of my journals.
Yes.
So one of the things that GM Seth introduced us to early on was the fact that we were not at all guaranteed to be able to solve the mysteries we were pursuing. In fact, sometimes the most we could really hope to do was witness. Which is not to say that he was railroading us, but that sometimes it was beyond us to deal with the issue, and sometimes we just needed to be there to see what had happened and figure the piece out that needed to be done. So, this was one of those times when we were not very successful. We were going up against what I was pretty sure was a banshee.
As it would turn out, yes, you were correct.
Yeah, we went into the forest. We were toyed with a bit. There was illusions.
And banshees are a 17th level creature in Pathfinder.
Which we were not. We were nowhere near close to that.
You were only like 3rd level.
Yeah, 3rd or 4th, I think, is where we came in. And so we were able to track steps to certain locations. We found a number of wards. I stretched the boundaries of what was possible with automaton flight, and we went into a house at one point, and it was all not really a good situation. And in the end,
also dealt with an issue where random characters would see these red eyes high off the ground and then start wandering off in random directions.
Yes, although that would come back in a different mission in a different place later on. So that seemed to be a feature of some types of higher level issues like that. Not the same creature in the other one that I'm thinking of.
Yeah, it was definitely not the same creature.
Yeah, but I guess we failed.
It was definitely one of the same species.
We did figure out that those that had gone missing had been in this way sort of entranced and then drawn off into places where no one else could see them, and then probably consumed by the Banshee's own machinations. So we weren't able to recover a body, sadly, but we were able to tell them what had happened and what most likely had happened to the child, which doesn't feel wonderful telling people bad news about their loved ones.
Yeah, that story kind of came back recently, where the party recently learned that man is now in a mental institution and has been raving about how his sister is not dead, that she is very much alive, but that's a story for a different time.
But that was where Bifrost was inspired to not only record all the things we were discovering, but also to keep a separate list of the names of those who we were not able to save or that we were not able to find.
Yeah.
Because the desire was that they were not forgotten. And so it's funny because this litany became kind of depressing for some of the other players along the seasons that Bifrost was there, because I would pull out that list every once in a while and remember them in a vocal fashion sometimes, and sometimes just share. Not because I was trying to be morbid, but because for Bifrost it was very important to remember those people, their existence, that they mattered.
Yeah, there was another missing persons case that came up shortly right after that, called Missing in North Point, where you investigated this young boy that had gone missing in North Point Woods in Atlantia. And I'm not sure, did you end up actually finding that boy?
We found a couple of entrances to the to deep realms, and we tracked some footsteps that suggested that the boy may have been, I hesitate to say exactly abducted, but may have been forcibly adopted. I wasn't certain 100% that it was for food. It may have been that one of the somewhat less wild denizens of the area had found the child and felt the child needed caring for. And so had taken the child. But no, we weren't able to find a body.
Or find him.
Didn't seem likely.
After that, you were called to a large house on a rural farm in Atlantia that was being terrorized by some kind of creature every single night. The Magi Guard believed it to be the work of some Mystimon. The family didn't agree. And this was actually where you found an interesting artifact.
Yeah, potentially too, I think. But yes, we found the folding key. And this is also, it was somebody who was trying to scare the people out of the house so that they could try and get to the artifact that was in the house. This was the dagger, correct?
Yeah, there was the dagger, and there was that folding key. And
folding key.
You told me a while ago that you had that Bifrost had buried those things somewhere on the ranch.
Yes.
May I pause for a moment?
Sure.
Y'all had a straight up Scooby-Doo villain.
Oh, it was.
Y'all had a straight up old guy trying to scare everyone out of the house so he could take the priceless artifact. Scooby-Doo villain.
Well, except he's summoning wolves. So wolves that were
look
not
in a world of
wolves.
magic. Scooby-Doo villains have fancier stuff. That doesn't change. He was a Scooby-Doo villain.
Oh yeah, no, we fought a lot of Scooby-Doo villains. There were forces trying to sort of impose fear to get all sorts of things. That's a pretty standard move here for the seasons that we had. Yeah. Yes. No. Totally. Very Scooby-Doo.
Probably definitely a cult that you would later find out a name to. And everything. But as it turned out, these wolfish creatures weren't actually wolves or anything. They were actually Barghests, and they were. You ended up fighting them.
Oh yeah, no, I remember this again pushing the boundaries of automaton flight. I remember literally floating above them while some of them tried to leap at me and hitting them with what little I could. Mostly divine lances and stuff.
Yeah.
Which was kind of cheesy. The other technique that I developed during this early season was making a fire somewhere whenever I thought we might be in danger, and then parking myself in the fire so that way I'd have a source of personal healing for myself as things came after us.
And the reason why Bifrost keeps saying that he was pushing the boundaries of automaton flight is because he is the reason why so many changes had to be made to the automaton.
Yeah, I was testing it. It was a new kind of thing for us, and it was before they had made the book that had redefined automatons for Pathfinder 2. So
yeah.
There needed to be some fine tuning here and there, and especially because if I could do it, that meant other forces that were far more dangerous could also do it too. So I was thinking of something. We needed to be careful with it.
Indeed.
So really, you were just doing everybody a favor.
That's it. That's what I'll say. I wasn't trying to cheat. I honestly was thinking in desperation most of the time, but it was apparently boundaries that hadn't been thought about.
Yeah.
So. And as an early flyer,
it's not a war crime the first time,
or the second or third or fourth or ninth time once they've made the rules of what you can't do. Yeah. So yes, totally Scooby-Doo villains, though, no question about that.
Then that Sabretooth who was carrying the idol, he showed up again. now at the museum. The idol that he was carrying showed up again at the museum in Colroon. The Almanin Museum of Antiquity was going to be showing off these artifacts dedicated to a long-lost old god. And
I'll also put out there, not to interrupt you too much, I had also made a decision at this point, too, to start to carry those items that we deemed were really questionable or possibly cursed, because I didn't want to leave them in one place and have them stolen. So I became the repository for a lot of these things, including the object you're about to talk about here.
Yeah.
Until we had a place that was somewhat safe to store it. And even then, for plot reasons, because I was getting a sense that if you leave something somewhere too long, they'll get reused. I held on to a lot of things.
Yeah. Yes, you did. A few too many things.
Yes, and hid them.
So the museum manager called up the investigators when this idol went missing, and you were caught by the fact very early on that this museum manager only seemed to care about the idol. He didn't seem to care about the people who went missing at the same time.
And there's a good reason for that. He was not a good guy.
Yeah, and this was also where you discovered some connections to a professor called Dr. Gray. And you went up to his residence in the Nobles District in Colroon and found that he was missing. But you were able to investigate his library and discovered various clues about the idol. Eventually, you learned that the person who had gone missing had actually taken the idol, and you learned that the idol was set to be shown off at 7 p.m. under the light of the moons. So, talk to me about your experience with this case, the Idol of Yoth.
So we got split up a bunch of times.
Oh, yes. I think the party was split up like 2 or 3 ways.
Yes. We had some people looking around the place. We had some people, I was part of the group that went to investigate at the professor's place. We got targeted and shot at on the way back, which was the first time I was attacked. We were in a taxi. That was exciting. And after that, ended up having to also make a foray to the asylum, where we found at least one individual who was clearly mad, who had written a whole bunch of very occultic things all over his cell. This is obviously a place where that's going to happen again and again. Just saying things out loud now for people that need to be reminded. That place has all sorts of crazy occultic stuff going on. But he was maddened by his exposure to the idol. And we also pieced together that the light of the moon and the night in specific was really particularly important. It was a night of important conjunctions and events, and having the idol out there was likely to cause the death of a lot of people if allowed to. We did discover there was an unholy proto-horror in the museum itself. A proto-saga.
A void terror.
Yeah. It was nasty enough.
And it was a proto-Shegorath, or whatever you call that creature.
Yep. So already bad, really bad. And the kind of thing that could, I don't know, eat people and make them disappear.
Yeah.
And not only did the guy running the event pretty much know this was going on, he was trying to lure it with the statuette and the moonlight, I guess, in hopes of trying to control it. But he also had at least one of the staff members on his side in this one too, because she was also very eager to sort of like betray and backstab us whenever she got the chance to as well. We did track it. We couldn't kill the creature. That was well beyond our power. But we were able to isolate where it was and then get the darn thing away we were able to find the statue and spirit it away. This was the third item that I ended up carrying for quite a while because I just didn't trust anyone to be near it. And I was pretty sure this idol had really bad potential to be abused and power. So yeah, it was a nasty series of episodes. I think this is also where poor GM Seth discovered that I had an unfortunate talent at stretching out episodes far beyond the time period he thought they would.
Yes. Now that's a talent that I have.
Oh, good.
I'm
You said it because I was about to.
I'm very guilty of that myself.
Same. I was going to say Seth needs help doing that.
Seth learned that one. Like,
later episodes aren't really episodes anymore. They're arcs.
Yeah. Well, I think what happened is the more I asked questions, the more Seth said, "Oh yeah, that sounds good. Let's do this and that too." So that, and I was overly cautious. He had done a very good job of scaring me into believing that we could fail everything and that we could basically get everyone killed if we didn't do it right. So I think I became a lot more paranoid at that point.
Yeah. And at the end of that episode, you had an interesting encounter with the man and the top hat.
Yes. Yes. I don't know how much you want to say now.
Yeah, you learned very early on right there just how creepy this guy is.
Yeah, and this was the beginning of the other part of Bifrost's long-term pet project, which was trying to figure out what his ultimate goal was and trying to convince him in some way or another that maybe there was a way to do that didn't involve destroying everyone and, giving the world over to monsters that would ravage it to its very atoms.
Indeed.
Didn't succeed in that one.
Yeah.
But
yeah, he's still doing it, so it doesn't seem like it.
That's also where I learned to mispronounce his name on purpose, which is why I haven't said his name yet.
No, you didn't know his name until much later on.
Yeah. Well, there are layers of that.
Yeah.
You told us out of character before you told us in character his name. But yes, he was a man in a very theatrical outfit. He had a tremendous hatred of anything that wasn't human. And honestly, I felt like that was an affectation more than a real character trait. I almost felt like he did that just as a way to try and throw people off, which was funny because then he didn't treat me near as bad as he treated every other demi-human in the party or anyone else we met for that matter, because I wasn't even a person. So in that way, I didn't even deserve the disrespect he gave to other people. So
it kind of shows the dichotomy of this man.
Yeah. Well, again, I think there were layers that we pieced together as things went along that made me feel like there were certain things that were fundamentally a part of his personality and some things that were affectations that I feel like he put on or took off. That could also be a matter of the sanity that he was struggling with.
Yeah, as Binary and L have now pieced together themselves, there was definitely a lot more there.
Yeah.
You've heard of Layers of Fear, now get ready for the hit sequel, Layers of Cloud! Starring yours truly, Zolgoth!
Yes, he was an interesting, in my horrible pronunciation of him, Solgoth, which always, I always picture, guy who's got like sort of the soul and the goth thing going on at the same time. Works well for me. But that was my way to sort of bring humor to a character who was fundamentally very dark.
Yes.
So, and he made it very clear that he had every intention of continuing to push these types of cataclysmic events when possible, and that we had no power to stop him, although we did periodically sort of halt parts of his plans.
Yeah. As we'll see, see here, you did manage to throw a wrench into his plans, if he indeed has plans. That seems to be a bit of a mystery.
Mm-hmm.
Don't try and play coy with us like we don't know. He's got plans.
So, you then had a case involving who you would discover was Waveform, the Dragon Lord of Water, and Opua, in the Quartica Islands, and you helped a little girl who was caring for Waveform, and you struck up a bit of a friendship with Waveform. Kind of want to get through things kind of quickly here.
Fair enough.
So the next episode after that, you encountered, I think this was the first time you encountered a red-haired witch.
Mm-hmm.
The episode was called Witch's Curse.
An enemy at that point, yeah.
And in Witch's Curse, you were investigating, you had traveled to Emerald Port to investigate the disappearance or something involving a man who had a love for music, who had been acting very strange. He lived in Emerald Port and had been for the last week calling his friend in the Quartica Islands, telling her he was seeing shadows and all these other strange things. And then she had been trying to call him nonstop for 3 days and never received an answer. And she grew deeply worried for her friend. She called the Magi Guard, asked them to do a welfare check just to check that he was okay. And they found his house locked up, got no response to knocks. They say that they did not have cause to break down the door and check inside, but she had heard that he had also not been showing up for work. And so she turned to you guys as her last resort and requested that you go into Emerald Port and search for him. She just wanted to know what had happened to him and that he was okay.
And we did end up breaking down the door and going inside.
Yes, you did.
Almost
and,
at the place.
I believe a few other things too.
Yes. Well, it was he was dead, unfortunately.
Yes, you found that he was dead, and you found that the place was haunted by a shadow,
which hadn't been there before. That's how we eventually found the red-haired witch. She admitted that she had actually invested the haunt in the place.
Yes.
Yeah, we were able to track her. I ended up having a conversation with her. Again, the misguided sense that somehow you could find a rational reason for people to do things like this.
Yeah.
She was the person who first clued us in that there was an active group of people, not just one, but multiple people who were working against us. This was where we had the first hints of the cult of Cthulhu working,
otherwise known as the Scions of the Void.
Yes, and she was an admitted member who was working in tandem with Sulgoth and others to try and bring about.
Well, as it would turn out, she was doing things for her own reasons.
Oh yeah, that would come.
She wasn't specifically working for him. She was working with him only when it was convenient for her.
Mm-hmm. And it was clear that she was an independent agent.
Yeah,
from him.
Yeah, she was definitely very, very independent. And the curse that was on that guy somehow passed to you.
Yes, and we were cursed from that point on.
Yeah.
Hopefully you guys have gotten rid of that curse.
Oh.
In some ways they have, in some ways they haven't.
Well, depending on what the curse does, we I don't think we've come across it. However, we do have a gobbler and party member that's been chosen by the Yellow King, so we've got separate issues.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
the King in Yellow.
Season 11 stuff.
Yeah, I will say, listening to this, I kind of feel like every mistake you guys made,
yes,
we perfected.
It did not. I think, unfortunately, sometimes, I had hoped that certain things would get into the journal, but some of those things may be in there, just things we found and things we discovered and mistakes we made.
We certainly haven't stopped breaking down doors or walls.
Or setting houses on fire.
Yes.
Okay. The cultists set it on fire. We just didn't stop it.
They ended up burning down that guy's house.
We didn't burn it down. The cultists burned it down.
So
there's a very big difference.
So you then had
information like he's the Magi Guard.
You then had a case in Sapphire Port. And
before or after, I think around this time is when we first came across certain very special items, including one that was near and dear to my heart, very near to my heart because I built it into my frame, which was the Bag of Nakos.
The Bag of Nakos. The Bag of Nakos turned into a meme, basically. It's a meme that's still there, if the party will use it.
At this point, I needed something to carry around all the objects I was carrying with me at this point. So
Yes.
we found the bag of NACOs, and I decided that was the perfect repository, an extra dimensional space to store the evil things.
Yeah.
And then very
And then
quickly,
you grew this this habit of pulling NACOs out of the bag whenever you felt sad or something.
yeah, I would actually introduce like, oh, you've got children here. How do they feel about NACOs? Let me show you. And I had built it into the housing of my chassis, my body. So I would literally just reach into a hole in my stomach, in where the stomach would be, and pull a NACO out. I just keep pulling something out until the NACO came out. And I look, here's a little NACO. Can you hold on to this and take care of her for me? Can you take care of this one for me?
Hey, Bastille's an automaton who also has an endless hole in his body.
And
Unfortunately, there's just ghosts in there.
Oh, that's a different issue. No, mine just had NACOs. Honestly, I think NACOs are better than pulling ghosts out.
Well, he can't pull the ghosts out. That ain't
Oh, so yeah.
That's an
The ghosts
entirely
go
separate
in.
issue.
Okay.
But yeah, Bifrost is the very reason why there are hundreds of NACOs on Foxhole Ranch.
Mm-hmm.
And then later Bitors showed up on the ranch. This herd of Bitors showed up on the ranch, and you've been taking care of them.
They didn't come out of my stomach though.
Yeah, they wandered on the ranch of their own volition.
They came out of their parents' stomachs. I had nothing to do with it.
That's an interesting
That you'll go on record saying.
Yes, I can't. I wasn't there when the parents treated the Vitor. I just know that's how they happen.
Parents, I am sorry for Bifrost inadvertently giving your kids the bird and the bees talk.
I'm sure the Vitor loved each other very much.
I'm sure they did too.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the Dake was also bred.
Yes. But that's the nature of NACOs when they're well taken care of, and that was important.
Spay and neuter your pets, people.
Indeed.
You do not see in the Discord here where I have placed the image that I so love of cats being herded through a nice open ranch space. So that is how I wish and picture the ranch to be this day.
Yes. It
Very
kind of is that way. Kind of. Especially with the Goblerans.
Yeah, there you go. Our Goblerans should be good caretakers for that.
When we're not searching for stuff you hid.
Well, I don't know if I'm supposed to say. I mean, there were clues left in the library that were supposed to direct people to where it was, including what I thought was a relatively straightforward explanation of where one of the things, well, where a lot of the things were. But that's a matter for the GM to obfuscate. So
yeah. So moving on, you investigated a case that was called the Demon House. That also ended very poorly.
Yes, but I remembered the NACOs because that was one of the things I was trying to use to distract the children before I realized the children were central to the plot.
Yeah.
I'd hoped they weren't. That was very grim.
Yeah, it was definitely a very grim case. That case involved a family in Sapphire Port, and the 3 kids in the family were being thrown against walls and being beaten. Very grim.
People had taken it as abuse, but it was not. It was haunting.
The Magi Guard had concluded that the single mother must have been abusing the kids, but that wasn't the case at all. And they were moving to remove the children from the home. But the mother and the grandmother were both claiming that something else was doing it. And you were brought in to take a second look before the kids were to be removed from the home. And what ensued was a case of the bizarre, as it quickly became apparent that there was some kind of demonic being in the house. So what happened to that house is that house has now been demolished, and you are not sure if the demon is now gone. It's not very clear whether the demon is actually gone.
Yes, that's not surprising, unfortunately. But
this was also another case where the man in the top hat, aka Zolgoth, was seen.
Yeah,
and he has a habit of showing up at the least opportune times.
What?
Yeah,
It's opportune for him.
it was.
It's
that's the
opportune
thing.
for him, not for you.
I feel like he was, again, this may have been a planted situation rather than just somehow a random and otherwise meaning group of people happened to run across a random haunting for some reason. This felt more like he was signing things after the fact.
Yeah. So then you dealt with a case that it will say it does actually come up again.
Okay.
It did actually come up again for Binary and L, the Watcher. You were contacted by a family in Colroon in the Precipice District who were at their wits' end. They had purchased this new home and immediately they were moving in. As they were moving in, they received this letter with no return address, no postmark, nothing. And the letter was a little bit creepy, but they wrote it off as an oddity at first. And a couple of weeks went by and they received another letter. This time it seemed more threatening than the first, and it mentioned what is in the walls of their newly purchased home. And then what was weirder was that letter also mentioned their 4 kids by name and even by their nicknames, as well as their birth dates. Information that no one should have.
Well, the parents.
So then that was when they tried to contact the Magi Guard. The Magi Guard couldn't do much about it, so then they went to you about it.
Yes, and this revealed a lot of things to us. This would lead to us piecing together somewhat of the backstory of Zolgoth.
Yes.
Finding some diaries, learning a little bit of the origin of the cult that he had been brought up in that changed when he got older. We did end up finding evidence of things that would make it look like bad stuff happened there, but it was clearly actually part of the place from before.
So
them.
You discovered in a bunch of documents in the course of this whole investigation, you discovered a box full of documents that revealed that that the man in the top hat, his real name was Zolgoth Alduin.
Yep.
Zolgoth Alduin was his real name, and he was fostered as a child by a man named Henry Corbett after a horrific tragedy that he endured in a small fishing village called Agrabah on the western shore of Almana. And this very creepy man, Henry Corbett, took the seed of darkness that had already been planted in Zolgoth and cultivated it.
Fanned it.
And that itself also came up later as Bifrost and L discovered.
Bastille and L.
Bastille and Soma.
Yes.
I hope you weren't attached to that house, I'll say.
Yeah.
Attached as in worried about the house being destroyed.
As it would turn out, that family moved out of the house shortly after that Bifrost, and then they started receiving letters again. But that's a whole other story for a future time. So you discovered Zolgoth Alduin's true identity, and you discovered a little bit of his backstory of what turned him into what he is today.
Yeah,
just a little bit. As Binary and L discovered, there was more to it.
Well, usually there is.
Yeah. And then you took on a case from a woman named Violet Icebreaker and traveled to a region of Olympus on the in the southern end of Olympus called the Shadowwood. And the Shadowwood is a very mysterious region that is said to be haunted and cursed.
We were forbidden from going there, I recall.
Yeah, you weren't supposed to go there, but you went there anyways.
Yeah, although honestly, I would have been interested in taking a little less time and getting permission, but it didn't seem like that was going to go very far, and we had some impetuous members.
Yes.
We went to weird places in that trip.
Yeah, you had one very impetuous member, to say the least.
Yes.
And you discovered that, some people should have gotten malaria vaccines before they went to a swampy region where transquitos are known to fly around.
Yeah, that's part of the problem of not asking questions and finding out things beforehand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, I didn't realize
You didn't entirely know that the Shadowwood is a swampy region.
Yeah, kind of surprised, honestly, that I was actually potentially susceptible as well.
Yeah. Yeah, you dealt with a bit of that yourself, and there was actually one of the party members. One of the party members actually ended up in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So,
But yeah, that was we got in, made contact with a powerful supernatural force that was there, and then we're told basically that we needed to leave. But we actually made contact, and I feel like that was actually meaningful.
Yeah,
It was. We observed, we recorded, we got out without creating too big of a stink. I think we were just kicked out or told not to come back or something.
Yeah. So then we had a play test session for, I forget what I think it was the Secrets of Magic play test.
We had an inventor, and we had
no. This was the Star on the Shore.
Oh, okay.
The Star on the Shore, where there had been many missing persons cases going on lately in Emerald Port. Actually, I think I changed that to Sapphire Port. I digress.
Okay.
And no, Emerald Port, yeah. And a party was sent there. They discovered a cephalopod creature, a parasitic cephalopod creature called a Lyra.
Yes. Really, honestly, just a preceded hint for something that happened later on.
Yeah.
We had to see that. I don't know if I was fully a part of that group at that time, too. I think that if it was the first playtest, I don't know that I was part of. I think it was part of the second and third.
Yeah, according to this, actually, it wasn't really a playtest, so I remembered it wrong. So at the end, there was a hurricane that blew past Emerald Port.
Yes.
Blew through Emerald Port, and you dealt with a lot of the Lyras.
Although we discovered basically that there's a certain sort of life cycle to how that invests in people and what it does to them.
Yeah.
Yes. And it was bad.
Yeah, if you want to learn more about Lyras, you can find the Mystiary page on our site. Lyras are an interesting Mystimon. There's some debate as to whether they are even Mystimon at all. But I digress. Then
and we would discover later on it would get much worse. It could be a lot worse.
Yeah.
Than what we dealt with there.
Yeah. Then came a case called Death Ranch. In recent years, there are a number of Baitor ranches across the world that had been reporting these bizarre mutilations of their Baitors, but none more so than Olhavio Ranch in eastern Atlantia, which had been coined the Death Ranch because of the sheer number of the reports there. And now the owners of this ranch were getting fed up with the situation, and they called you guys in to investigate it. And what do you remember about this case?
Well, I mean, this was the chupacabra moment here, where we found slaughtered Baitor that wouldn't decay. They didn't have any of the bacteria that would cause the body to break down. They literally would just lie there freshly dead for like a long period of time because they had been so completely sterilized that nothing would actually cause them to break down naturally. This is the beginning of the very fearsome series of UFO sightings we would have.
Yeah.
And that would come back to the ranch to haunt us later on too. And the possibility that somehow we could, especially the automatons, could be taken over. They had to knock me almost completely out to get me free of control. And that was scary and disturbing. I was ready to die. I was ready to die. I was really certain that I would be killed off.
Yeah.
Fine for me, as long as it didn't kill other people off too, because Bifrost was very invested in helping other people.
Yes.
We were able to track the strange light to identify that there was a connection of sorts, but we didn't know what was causing it. It did seem as though the light that we were dealing with wasn't necessarily the source of the event. It might have been a projection rather than the actual object. Again, very UFO-ish, but more like if somehow the UFO might be somewhere far away, but somehow could project an image of itself to here. It was very interesting.
Yeah.
And this would show up, as I said, at the ranch in a later episode too.
Yeah.
And it became a feature that we would see a couple of times.
Mm-hmm. So then you were called into a case in Lake Near, and it also located in Atlantia, where there had been many reports of supernatural, such as sightings of a mysterious lady of the lake and a massive number of accidents in the area. But little town of Nor, nearby to the lake, had become a hotbed of its own supernatural activity. You were brought in to discover what supernatural forces had permeated the lake and why they have now spread to Nor. And as you investigated, you found that the lake was certainly a place of curiosity that you would want to investigate later, but the activity in Nor was something separate entirely. You discovered that it wasn't exactly supernatural.
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
This one I am a little vague on. I recall looking around a lot, but figuring out that a lot of the markers we were looking for were not present.
Yeah.
And we've gotten pretty good at breaking down how to look for supernatural stuff by this point. And we didn't have any of the hallmarks of that.
Yeah.
What
you found there was that this was actually caused by a Mystimon called Devilera. It is a terrifying creature that appears to people as that which they fear the most.
Yeah, we were being played with, and no divine powers seemed to have any impact because it wasn't an evil thing. It wasn't.
Yeah, it's
a
Mystimon.
It's a natural creature. Yeah.
Some can argue that it's evil, but it's a Mystimon just doing what it does.
Here, I thought it'd be stealing spotted animals. Cruella de Vilra.
An opportunity that was missed, I'm sure. I could have, unfortunately, been a source of many NACOs.
Unfortunately, he says. Unfortunately.
Well, it's always interesting to add to plot.
So then, I believe this was a different party at this point, or this was a separate case. This was a separate case that saw you taking a vacation to a snow resort in Antarctica. But this snow resort was extremely remote, and when you got there, you met several people that were staying at this resort, and the first night went pretty uneventfully. I would say that this was where one of your party members got especially pooky.
Yes. If I recall, there was someone there that was also a little pregnant, yes?
Yeah.
We were dealing with far northern gods trying to establish, well, we went in the wrong direction, but basically trying to establish balance. And we thought we were protecting something we really shouldn't have been protecting.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, the baby.
Yeah. That's kind of one of those moral quandaries.
The child had been wrong to begin with, basically, and a force of negation was sent to destroy it, but it was on a level well above us, and really, there was a chance we could have tried to stop it, but had a good reason for what it was doing, and the person who was carrying the child had been a party of making sure that an evil thing was being brought into existence.
Yeah, you ended up dealing with a void terror called a Wendigo.
Negotiating and eventually allowing to do what it needed to do, I think was more appropriate. And it was definitely, it was a moral quandary of sorts, but it took figuring out what was going on. And fortunately, the Wendigo actually did some communication. That was not always a given with some of the forces we dealt with.
So after that came a very, very pivotal moment in season 8. At the end of season 8, you were called in by Crystal Dawn, the leader of the Wayfinder Society, when she discovered that upon the night before this astral event called the convergence, which is this alignment of all of the planets in the solar system. Upon the night before the convergence, there was to be a gala happening in a secret location being attended by some of the most powerful noble families in Kalrun, and she suspected that Zolgoth would be there, and that this gala was a front for the Scions of the Void. And she managed to obtain invitations for all of you to attend. So, and you also brought along Kwoi and Ira.
Yeah, well, we were bringing them along less because we wanted them involved in more as we had to keep them safe.
Yeah. And as it would turn out, Zolgoth was indeed there at the gala, appearing as flashy as ever, as he was gathering together these noble families from across Almana. And you learned in the midst of your investigation that these nobles were not merely attendees at this exclusive gala. They were in fact involved, some of them at least were in fact involved with the Scions of the Void.
Some of them were there willingly, some of them were as hostages, pretty much.
Yeah.
Some of them were also, well, and this is where we come back to the hint we had before, the parasitic Elira, right?
Yeah, Eliras.
Some of them had been invested with them because they have a unfortunately drug-like effect for some people, and that it flushes them with feelings and emotions and power and is addictive, but it was also going to destroy them too.
Yes.
And this was just to make them very tractable so that he could sacrifice them to something much bigger.
Yeah. Something very, 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 very big and very, very, very bad. And eventually, Zolgoth, being the creepy guy that he is, decided to play a game with you, telling you that somewhere in this big castle, a dear friend of yours was trapped, and if you could find him, you would win a prize.
True, and that was also a way to try and distract us from being able to get more of his people away.
Yes, this was definitely where his creepiness really played in.
And we had more party members. We had guest members and people who hadn't been in a while. People from the original group were supposed to be part of that too.
Yes, and you decided to play his games for now, in order to rescue two women, one of whom was actually Crystal's mother, who, as it would turn out, is actually Zolgoth's own sister. Crystal's mother is Zolgoth's sister, meaning Crystal is his niece.
We were basically in the fantasy world equivalent of Alabama, I think.
Yeah, as a
You were in a Nueva Televisa.
Yeah, as a character had remarked recently, Crystal, you have one effed up family.
It's not her fault.
No, it's not. It's absolutely not her fault. So this was also where Kwoi and Ira's relationship first blossomed, where their romance first blossomed, as he started chasing them throughout the castle. And in order to calm her down, Ira kissed Kwoi, and so later on, you finally track down Zolgoth to this kind of ritual site outside of the castle on this cliffside, and this was where Crystal's mother had some words with him, tried to get him to see the folly of his ways. Didn't quite work because Zolgoth is insane. For lack of a better word, he's insane.
Well, he had a plan to feed them to his one of his many lords, a gigantic kaiju type creature.
Yes, and he ended up summoning this gigantic, massive kaiju creature, class Mystimon. It was this massive beast with 7 long tentacle-like necks and alien-looking heads, 6 bat-like wings, and several tentacle-like tails. Its skin was jet black and smooth, and its eyes many. It was so big that it dwarfed even the Dragon Lords. It was a creature called Hydra. And before you had gone to this gala, you woke up to a knock on the door, and when you opened the door, you just simply found this box on the porch. And this was where you were given this pyramid, this very small pyramid, 3-sided pyramid, that you discovered was a puzzle pyramid.
Yep, a puzzle box that we were trying to solve as we went along. We figured out that we needed to solve this before we got to that point.
Yeah.
We fortunately did have solutions, so in the end, we were able to trap that in the pyramid.
Yes.
Although that was really a temporary solution.
Yes.
And I don't know.
As this party, as Binary and Soma have discovered, it was definitely a very temporary solution that has now turned bad.
And this is one of the things that that eventually was placed in the Dark Archive.
So this puzzle pyramid is exactly what they're looking for right now, what they were trying to look for on the ranch, because it's buried somewhere on the ranch.
Yep.
We know
And
an
that's-
aspect of Hydora.
And all I
you
can
actually fought an aspect, kind of. Yeah, it's bad, and
it is hidden in the same place. Like I didn't want to make it too complicated. I kept everything in one place.
yeah, everything is in one place. So that was the season 8 finale, and after that, months go by, and Kwoi and Ira's relationship was blossoming, and so you would actually, I think it was kind of during this time that you had actually, that was a little later. It was a little later, a little after this.
Yep.
You so we came upon the next episode, Forbidden Love. And it was in this case, Crystal was showing you about the basement in the Wayfinder Tower. She had officially folded the Spirit Bureau, as it was called at that point, into the Wayfinder Society and renamed it the Hidden Archives.
Yep.
And she was showing you around the basement in the Wayfinder Tower, which she was giving you, where you would find these shelves of books and scrolls, filling cabinets and several desks. And as she was showing you a strange device in the center of the room, you heard screams coming from outside. And as Crystal immediately rushed up, because she heard Kwoi and Ira screaming, she rushed up the stairs. And as you followed her out there, you found a pair of Magi Guard officers arresting Kwoi and Ira. And Crystal was very aggressive with these officers, telling them to get their hands off of them, and they gave her a scroll which was basically a warrant for their arrest. And this was all because of a really stupid, really ancient Almanan taboo that forbidded same-sex relationships.
This, I think, was where I had two characters now functioning.
Yes, you now had two characters at this point. You introduced a new character named Tarek.
And Tarek was a paladin of, different origin. And he decided to accompany them as advocate, as a lawyer, because actually he was a lawyer for his profession. So he decided to come and be a representative for them in this court case that was supposed to go down, figuring better to come and at least try and make sure that there's some kind of law behind this than not.
Yeah. And at this point, Crystal actually decided she was going to enact an ancient Colrunian rite. She decided that if the Pharaoh is going to use an ancient law, then she was going to enact an ancient Colrunian rite, whereby she would elect a champion to fight on their behalf in gladiatorial combat.
Yep.
And then she was basically using that as a ruse, because this would lure the Pharaoh and a handful of his guard out of the palace, so then you could actually infiltrate the palace. Well,
where we discovered who pushed that process along.
Yeah, you discovered Zolgoth had been apparently worming his way into the Pharaoh's good graces and whispering, so many madness into his ear and controlling him.
Because he didn't want, well, first of all, he knew what both Ira and Kwoi were.
Yeah.
And was trying to get rid of them because they were actively working against the forces he was trying to bring into the world.
Yeah. So this is where we get into an element that Soma that Soma and Bastille are dealing with now, that Elle and Binary are dealing with right now, where you discovered early on that Crystal and Kwoi were these what was called guardians. Crystal is the guardian of flame, and Kwoi is the guardian of Earth. And the guardians always precede the chosen one, and their job is to maintain the balance of all things, the balance of light and darkness and everything. And then during Convergence, it was discovered that Ira is the guardian of Frost, and her powers kind of awoke because of protecting Kwoi and everything, and all of that. So I actually wanted to ask you, did you notice a change in Zolgoth's demeanor during this time, transitioning from Convergence into Forbidden Love? Did you notice a change in his demeanor?
He was, well, first of all, he was more targeted and much more working towards a goal. This is why I agree that there is a goal behind him and that he's not just mad. I will also point out that we saw a connection not only between them and the elements and the world, but also with the Dragon Lords as well. And that seems they each seem to have a specific, unique bond. So, and the Dragon Lords are in opposition to the forces that Zolgoth and the Scions were trying to bring about, because we had rumors and evidence that they might even have been, running from. That's why Waveform was injured. There's definite opposition going on. Yeah, Zolgoth was more interested in bandying words. He found Tarek to be an interesting opponent, didn't like him as much as he enjoyed dealing with and talking to Bifrost, because Bifrost didn't seem as confrontational as Tarek was. But yes, it was much more. He also was starting to exhibit some of the powers we would learn were more common to being a summoner. He was transitioning. He was changing. No question about that.
I wondered if you had noticed that he was shaken after Convergence.
He didn't expect us to have a solution, first of all, and he was unhappy with
several developments. He was unhappy with several developments that happened that night.
Well, seeing how powerful the Guardians could be as compared to the forces he was messing with, that didn't help him.
It didn't help that he always had this goal of killing the Guardians, and this was where it kind of started to become hinted at what was really going on with the Guardians. Because first of all, Ira being revealed to be the Guardian of Frost really threw him for a loop. Because as it would turn out, he had killed what he thought was a Guardian of Frost years prior in 2724, a woman by the name of Helga Brynor, shortly before Ira was born. So when Ira was revealed as the Guardian of Frost, Zolgoth was certainly shaken, because he started to have to rethink whether he had it right the first time, whether he killed the right person at all, and
murder doesn't stick.
And another development that shook him was the blossoming of Ira and Kwoi's relationship. That was definitely a thing that would show itself again and again in the future, isn't it? He was definitely really focused on their relationship.
Yes, he was. He would actively work against them. He was trying to build wedges, and he was also trying to see if there was some way to sort of keep the Guardians from working in concert.
Because
that's fearsomely dangerous to his plans.
Because as it would turn out, in Forbidden Love and the case that came after it, Zolgoth's Trap, where Forbidden Love and Zolgoth's Trap were really two sides of the same story, with different parties. And as it would turn out, he could never actually touch Kwoi. He was always interested in Kwoi, but he could never touch her. And he learned that Kwoi was warded, and what that ward was, he could never figure out. But that ward was supposed to be broken. That ward was supposed to be broken on the night of the Convergence. And then that ward came back. I'm hinting at where the ward came from. That ward came back when Koi and Ira's relationship blossomed, and it then extended to Ira. He now can't touch Ira either. And this is why he was always focused on them, because he is smart. He may not seem like it, but he is smart. He knows the ancient and powerful magic of true love, which is the ultimate form of togetherness. So yes, he has tried a number of times to tear them apart. What was that?
Ultra's going to teach him the power for togetherness with his fist to his face.
Yeah, because his ultimate fear was that Koi and Ira would bring forth the ultimate power of the Guardians. The ultimate power of the Guardians is working together. And during Convergence, Zolgoth also made light of the fact that every time a Guardian was revealed, every Guardian to be revealed was a woman. Do you remember that?
I do remember, but I never took it as being a set requirement. I think he was just trying to, again, marginalize by isolating or pointing out otherness.
Yeah. In a sneak peek of season 12, it is discovered that Guardians of ages past have always been women. In fact, Soma, that tapestry that you found with Kyrene in the forbidden section of the Elven Library in the Championship Murders, only women were shown in the art depicting the Guardians. A hidden piece of lore about the Traveler / Chosen One is that the Traveler only trusted women. He never trusted men. He felt that men were too easily corrupted. So he only trusted the power to women. So talk a little more about Forbidden Love and Zolgoth's Trap.
Well, that was it was the beginning of seeing sort of the political side of Calroon and that whole area.
Yeah.
Of Almana. Kyrene rather, and Bifrost ended up, although it was Tarek who was doing a lot of the courtroom negotiation, that would lead to Kyrene and Bifrost collaborating more, and also ending up having like a number of heart-to-heart conversations over the length of that season, in fact, because of those events. And it humbled the Pharaoh for a short period of time, and eventually there was a little bit more. That's when this got resolved, and it was clear that he had been duped by Zolgoth into this move. That ended the trial, but then the Pharaoh decided that he needed to open up the political system a little more, to get other voices in, and so that's where Irene became more of a rising player in the political.
Yeah, this is where the council elections were opened, and now Kyrene is running as a representative for Almana. The council, the Allied Nations Council, is like this Congress with representatives from each nation, from Highwind, Almana, Olympus, Atlantia, and the Cortica Islands, and maybe Arctica and Zalamba. And during this time, he also decided that Koi and Ira needed to move to Zalamba. They moved to Zalamba to live with you guys on Foxhall Ranch for the time being. Which
was nice. It was nice having them around.
Yeah.
They were not the only people to join us on the ranch. We had the Goblurns there. We had the Bytor there. It was becoming quite busy.
So they also would later join you on several cases, including the next case here that we'll talk about. There's actually a funny story attached to this one.
A number of them, I imagine.
Yeah, a number of them. So it was sometime after this, after Koi and Ira had moved down to the ranch with you guys. It's sometime after this that Koi's a gardener. You know, she loves to plant flowers everywhere. But even with her magical powers to grow flowers in places that they should be, like on top of people's heads sometimes, even with her powers, there was one patch of land on the ranch that she could not make anything grow at all.
Entirely true, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And
we bring that up for a very specific reason.
Yes. This was the first time we saw that things on the ranch were also being affected by the strange events, some of the supernatural stuff, we had not long after that also our own sort of chupacabra, dead by torch situation as well. And there's a section of land where nothing grows. And it was a very particular plot of land.
Yeah, it's this very particular plot of land, this very particular plot of soil right in front of the ranch house, where even Koi, with her powers, cannot make anything grow there at all. And you got the idea to bury all of that stuff right there in that plot of land.
Yeah, that was before we finished the season.
So
it became my plan to place things in that location.
Yeah.
And that's what I had set the clues in the library for, was to make sure that everything that I knew I didn't want, to get stolen and taken to places I could put there. And most people wouldn't know, but I placed a note that said, "Look where nothing grows."
So that is where those artifacts are buried, but for binary and L, that which you have been trying to find is buried there. And they have been under your nose the entire time.
Admit, I'm a bit confused on how Bastille wouldn't have come across that with his meticulously digging everywhere.
Yeah, sometimes you miss things, even when you're being meticulous. Sometimes you miss things.
We've got a lot of land. There's a lot of land out there, and there's a lot of weird things in our land.
About 511 acres.
Yeah, but I feel like if we're not told that, in an area there's a dead patch of land, we have no way to even know to try and look there. This is the first I'm learning of a dead patch of land.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's not anywhere. It's not the 2 abandoned houses. It's not the...
It's right in front of the ranch house.
It's not the strange hatch that has the potential pathway into another universe. It's not any of the gigantic things we saw through the soil.
As they discovered somewhere else.
Yeah, I hope you guys still have the ground penetrating radar device.
Yeah,
because we found all sorts of disturbing things underneath the ranch. Giant blimp things that might be eggs, could be all sorts of other horrible things under there.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have to point this out, Bifrost.
Yep.
You burying that pyramid with Hydra inside, you actually single-handedly filled in a ton of plot holes that I had throughout the last several seasons. You single-handedly fill in several plot holes.
All right, get on the stake.
There are a number of things in that plot of land. They're all there. I didn't want to leave
get on
them
the
in
stake.
the bag.
We're burning you. Get on the stake.
No, it's okay. I'm good.
You've aided the DM.
Yep. How many times you have to say, how many times did I just say something and then you ended up taking it into effect or creating something because of a random, idle, stupid comment or suggestion I made?
Yeah, the 0th Amendment, which is a house rule we have here, it was definitely something you abuse a lot, and it's also something Elle abuses a lot too, isn't it?
Yeah, and it wasn't even to make something advantageous for me. I just went, I wonder if this is going on, and then, yep, write it down. Some point, something like that's going to happen.
Yeah, for Elle, I think it's a lot of collaborative world building.
Yeah,
is the term that we've come up for it.
So yes, my recommendation is, I was trying to be cagey. I didn't know if you wanted me to say it right out, but yeah, that's where the stuff is buried. And there were notes. Who knows? Maybe one of those book throwing, Mystimon will throw the right book, and you'll find the note to look in the place where nothing grows.
Yeah, this next case did have a major plot point, a couple of major plot points, and also has a funny story behind what happened afterwards. So this case was called Cabin Terror. A boy had lost his father and decided to go up to the family cabin in the woods around the Cascade Mountains in Atlantia to spend a few days and reconnect with his late father. However, that was now 3 months ago at this time, and his mother was growing frantically. Frantically doing everything she could to find him, but she couldn't find him. So she called you guys in to go to the cabin and search for him. But before you could make it to the cabin, you decided to speak with people in the area, and you heard rumors of a glowing orb of light in the woods that it would lure people to their death. Or at least that was the story. You actually discovered with a lore check that creature they were describing is actually a ghost Mystimon named Ghostar.
Yep.
And you also, as you were stopping off at a tavern before making your way to the cabin, Koi and Ira went off by themselves for outside for a moment, and during this time, you were approached by the red-haired witch. And after a brief interlude with her, Koi and Ira came back inside, and just as Ira, upon seeing the red-haired witch, Ira stopped cold, and she muttered a single word: mother. As it would turn out, the witch turned around and was really taken aback at first, and then recovered quickly and was trying to push past her and trying to get away. And Ira stopped her and it just said, "Mother, I thought you were dead." And then the woman tried to brush her off again and said, "I really have no idea of what you speak." And at this point, Koi was trying to pull Ira away because she was sensing something very bad about this witch.
Toxic situation, certainly.
And this was where this witch said some things that Ira still has not forgiven her for. She made comments about Ira's relationship with Koi, and they were nasty comments, really nasty comments.
And ironically, they were highly effective in driving a wedge in there that was a good chunk of that season.
Yeah. So then Ira sat down with you all after the witch had left, and she said that the name of the witch was Luna Astoria, and she was her mother. And so she gave you a bit of information about Luna. As far as she knew, that she worshipped some spirits, but she didn't know anything past that. Koi thought they were dark spirits that she was worshiping, but she didn't know if that was true. But Ira said that Luna had always had a reverence for nature, much like Koi. So later on, as you got to the cabin, you discovered the ghost star. When you first encountered the ghost star, it formed steam on the window of the cabin, and in the steam it wrote hello. And soon after that, you encountered a peculiar sight of a talking Penza, a rabbit Mystimon in a red jacket that was hopping around the cabin and seemingly trying to find a way out of the cabin.
Was he running late?
Yes.
Did he have a watch?
Yes.
I wonder what this could be referencing.
As you would find out, that is apparently a fairy tale character that this ghost star has a particular fondness for.
But I thought this was fully original. I thought the ghost star had made a brand new thing.
So this ghost star writer helped you out with this case. You were then trapped in this cabin, terrorized by this creature outside. And talk to me about that, Bifrost.
It was the Mothman. It was the Mothman terrorizing us. And what I do remember is we stayed inside. We did not go out. We did not interact with the Mothman. Actually, I think, ironically, the character that I had there at the time was actually able to briefly roll a successful intimidation against the Mothman. So it stayed outside and we stayed inside. We waited the night out.
So,
but I mean, that got us through the night at least to get the kid out.
The funny story is that after that, when I made the application that we would be using for new players coming in, when I made that application, I decided to add on there a question that referenced cabin terror.
I was like, I remember this.
Yeah. That reference to this case, and because I discovered that many different people had many different ideas of how to deal with that kind of situation.
Binary, what was your response to how you would deal with that situation?
I genuinely don't remember this question. My memory is shot.
Alas.
What was the question?
It was a question on the application form that was like, imagine you're in a cabin in the woods, it's winter, you're, hundreds of miles from civilization,
And you're being terrorized by this creature.
and you're being terrorized by some unknown force that's like, being scary outside. What would you do?
I mean, I feel like it would have been something akin to definitely not going outside, because that's definitely not what you want to do when you're being terrorized by a creature. You don't go outside. You set up as many Home Alone kill contraptions as you can.
I straight up think that was my response as well. Was like barricade all of the windows, barricade all of the doors, set up as many traps, and basically create some kind of like funnel so that there's really only one way to move through the house. And then make sure that I'm in a warm room with all of the food I need for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. So after that case, you dealt with more stuff with the ranch, and then you dealt with a case where you found that there was a skull living in the walls of a house, and the skull it had a name. His name was Coco, and you just bring the skull with you back to the ranch.
Yeah, no, we just adopted the skull. It was like, this is a cool
you
being.
adopted him.
Yeah, no, I mean, this not hurting anyone, seems nice, wants to live their own life, be their own person. Like, yep, you're not going to be accepted in most of society. Come home with us.
Yeah.
So I hope they're doing fine.
Yeah, they're being terrorized on a daily basis by Spooklar, but that's another matter.
Skull was they were not necessarily they were pretty harmless. They seemed like nice folks. So
Coco is an interesting skull.
Actually,
I'll
it's
admit, Soba but still often see Coco walking around in Koi's dresses.
Well, that makes sense. It was a really good thing, actually, that it was Bifrost that met the skull, because I don't know that Tarek would have been as welcoming.
Yeah.
But Bifrost was like, "Yeah, sure, you're a being. You think you exist still. You have some type of spiritual resonance.
Yeah.
Come with us."
Yep, which is a return. That is something that he does often, or did often.
Yes, very much.
And then you went and dealt with a case on an island off the coast of Highland, where as I recall, was where our mischievous party member really showed her true light.
Yeah, no, that was that with the fire?
That was the perfect storm.
Yeah, that was intense. I wasn't able to be there through the entire episode, but yes, our most mischievous member actually found, sort of bit into it, enjoyed the concept history that was going on, and that
she did.
That was actually the first moment where we saw her really like say, "Hey, I've got my own way of perceiving this. I can get into this much more." It was a good experiment. There was gigantic boulder. There was all sorts of things going on. But I think I was only there for two of the parts of that episode.
Yeah, and then there was Missing in Pinewood. You were trying to look for a young girl named Lillian, and you did actually happen to find her. That was one that you did actually find and rescue.
I was convinced I was going to be writing another name into that book.
Yeah, you were. And then there was Missing in the Crazies, looking for a man who had gone missing in the Crazy Mountains in Atlantia. You did not find that guy alive. You found his remains though.
Yes, which was actually sort of okay. Like, there wasn't going to be a chance for us to find him necessarily, but finding that gave people closure.
Yeah. So then we got to Witch's Revenge. And this was another plot pivotal point where you met up again with Luna Astoria and
tried really hard to get that situation fixed. That actually ended up driving a little bit of a wedge between Bifrost and sorry about that. I'm putting wedges in for you, man.
I can't believe I was there. I don't remember any of this.
Don't tell him. Anyway, no, that drove a wedge for a while between Ira and Bifrost, because she was absolutely angry that Bifrost would be willing to talk to Luna.
Yeah,
to be fair, Bass still could have been there and he wouldn't know.
Yeah,
that's notable.
Yeah. Ira was really upset that you were even collaborating with Luna at all, but you needed Luna's help to deal with this case. But because you were dealing with what you were dealing with here was a girl was apparently saved when a necro spirit appeared to leave her. She was saved from this possession, and then it apparently moved to the girl's uncle.
Yeah.
And so you discovered that this demonic possession, this necrospirit possession, was happening because of these witch totems that were being left scattered throughout the town. And who would know more about these witch totems but a witch? Enter Luna Astoria.
And quite possibly the witch who was doing the totem work, although not the only witch. Yeah.
As it would turn out, she did one or two of them, and she didn't do the others.
Indeed.
She did one of them that was supposed to be deep in the woods, but it was moved, apparently.
Because other people that she was in cahoots with no longer trusted.
And this was where Koi discovered that Koi discovered what was really going on with Luna was that Luna is actually dying, because the spirit that she had called out to that had saved her when she was supposed to have died in the Quarter Islands, she was fighting it. And because she was fighting it, that spirit was turning dark. And that's what Koi had sensed. And so Koi finally managed to bridge some of the gap between Ira and her mother. And by the end, Luna and Ira had patched up some things, but not everything. Ira is still very standoffish with her to this day.
She even admitted to some degree part of the reason that she'd been so rejecting of Ira and Koi being together was because of some jealousy, some desire to be sort of.
It was more because Luna was trying to distance herself from Ira in order to protect her.
Yeah, because there was worry that this was all going to cause problems, especially because she was fighting the spirit.
Yeah.
And that was a complicated relationship, but it was the first time we were able to prise her away from the science, and there was hope that maybe there were other ways to do something similar with other members if we were able to isolate them.
Yeah,
which was part of Bifrost's long-term goal to try and figure out what was driving these characters, and try to show them that they could get those goals without having to harm everyone else in the process.
So you did manage to bridge, or with Koi's help, you did manage to bridge some of the gap between Ira and her mother. Some of that gap is still there because Ira keeps her at arm's length because she still feels hurt by what Luna had said in the first place.
To be honest, she's not necessarily deserving of full forgiveness. So, yeah,
of course. So then you dealt with a series of fires in Conaset that killed 3 Magi Guard officers.
Yep.
And a family of one of those officers moved out to Amity Island, and they were being haunted by some kind of strange force.
Yeah, that was not a small force.
And then after that, you decided to stay on Amity Island on vacation, but it didn't last long, as you were soon dealing with this string of Shiroshi attacks. Shiroshi is a great white shark, Mystimon, and you were dealing with a string of Shiroshi attacks on the island.
Which was a fun feature. That was
a fun case.
Nothing supernatural about that. Just simply legitimate reasons for an uptick in the number of Shiroshi around.
Yeah.
It was not a smart move to try and wade into the shark-infested water as well, in full armor, though, just putting that out there.
Yeah, and then we came up to your last case with us, A Mother's Love.
Bifrost had been very much in love with someone else for quite a while, and, well, no. They finally had Nakos.
No, that's not it at all. So in this case, you had learned that there was supposed to be a robbery at the museum, and you were there scoping out the museum, and you had brought Koi and Ira along, and you got a hint that Koi and Ira were arguing, and you heard Koi at one point say, "Where's this even going?" And then everyone heard scream because Ira just walked off and everything. And then after that, everyone heard Koi scream and went and found her unconscious. And you had a bit of a run-in with Zolgoth again. And this was when Ira was forced to turn to Luna for help, a decision that she was struggling with a lot because she felt that because Koi was unconscious and nothing she could do it could wake her up. Nothing you guys did could wake her up, and so she turned to Luna to help get Koi woken up and everything. And that was where Luna told you that this must be a curse that was placed on her by Zolgoth, and she sent you to Zolgoth's castle to go deal with him and find the focal point for the curse. And this was Bifrost's final episode with us. So Bifrost, talk about that.
And then eventually, crawling through different places, escalating series of threats. Also, Zolgoth trying to sort of lure and lead us. He was doing some limited villain monologuing.
Yeah.
So, and ultimately, it was the last investigation for Bifrost.
Because Zolgoth murdered him in very brutal fashion. In fact, actually, Zolgoth actually made light of this situation later on because he said that this was the first time any of his victims, that he had gotten to kill you again and again and again.
Yeah, no, it was not just once. It was persistent.
Yeah, because your party members didn't know exactly what was going on, and they kept trying to bring you back to life because they didn't know or understand what was really going on.
Yeah, I mean the plot things, of course, were that I had been too much trouble, and I was trying very hard to get into Zolgoth's mind and sort of try and pry Zolgoth out of this pattern. So to some degree, there was some personal enmity that I was trying to put order and rationality into a person who wanted to be seen as just purely chaotic and utterly without purpose, just simply following the whims of whatever, some, malevolent, overarching path.
Yeah.
But it was also an unfortunate needed exit for me, as other responsibilities were pulling me in a direction where I couldn't maintain what I knew would need to be good dedication to continue the series.
Yeah. So then after that,
let's have some good drama to finish.
Yeah. So then after that, Luna managed to help Ira kind of bridge the gap with Koi and fix that situation, because as it would turn out, there was one thing that Koi was really wanting Ira to say, and Ira was being reluctant on saying it. And that was those 3 words that a loved one always wants to hear.
I have cheese.
No, I love you. Koi wanted Ira to say she loved her, and she was being reluctant about it. And as it would turn out, this curse was very Zolgoth, because Zolgoth has a thing for fairy tales. I'm sure you've noticed. And Luna kind of knew from the start, it understood from the start that this was the most classic and most cliche curse of all, the true love kiss curse, where Koi would only awaken when Ira kissed her. Very cliche, but very Zolgoth. But Zolgoth wasn't done with his monologuing. It wasn't done teasing and everything, and they had more words with him. And then there was the kineticist play test, where Drone was going crazy and attacking people, attacking villages. That's a whole thing in and of itself. Except what was actually driving Drone to go crazy was this artifact called the Red Dragon Eye, which is actually one of 3 such artifacts. And Zolgoth stole the Red Dragon Eye at the end of that whole thing. And so then there was we had another What Lies Below case with more stuff with the ranch, and this kind of fed into as the party discovered, there is a time rift on the ranch. in those caves that you guys were very interested in, Bastille and Soma, there was a time rift in those caves, and the party found this time rift and ended up going back in time to a time when the ranch was occupied by another group who also was investigating supernatural things, and noticed that there was something off about a benefactor to the Wayfinder Society, a woman named Laurie Torwind. I think that name has come up again recently, hasn't it?
Yes, but not recently.
Kind of recently.